The galaxy learned too late that denying humanity was never the end of the story. It was the beginning of something far worse. The Hall of Accord floated above the dead star like a crown of light. A structure so ancient that no one remembered who built it first. Curved platforms hung in the air, each holding the representatives of the known civilizations. Gravity adjusted itself differently on every platform, tailored to each species' needs. The chamber was silent. Not peaceful. Afraid. At the center stood Ambassador Lyrian Kale of the Oralese Union. His tall, translucent body shimmered like frozen moonlight. Faint pulses of color moved beneath his skin, betraying his emotions. Right now, those colors flickered in broken patterns. Fear. Grief. Desperation. "My people are being erased," Lyrian said, his voice echoing unnaturally through the chamber. "Not conquered. Not enslaved. Erased." A projection bloomed above him. An entire world spun slowly in the air. Blue oceans. Silver forests. Cities grown from living crystal. Then the image shifted. Fire. The sky blackened as massive shapes descended. Living warforms, fused from metal and flesh, tore through the atmosphere. The Carrick swarm had arrived. "They came without warning," Lyrian continued. "No demands. No signals. Just hunger." The image zoomed in. Towering insectoid creatures moved through the cities. Their bodies adapted as they fought, armor thickening, weapons growing from limbs. Oralese civilians ran. They screamed. They died. Several ambassadors turned away. "The Carricks do not fight wars," Lyrian said. "They consume ecosystems. They dismantle civilizations for raw biological material. 40 billion lives are at stake." His legs buckled. "I stand before you," he said quietly, "because we have no fleet. No weapons. We believed the galaxy was civilized." He looked up. "Please. Send help." For a long moment, no one answered. Then High Arbiter Solvane of the Kethri Compact spoke. His mechanical body hovered slightly above his platform, glowing with calm blue light. "The Compact acknowledges your suffering," Solvane said. "But our forces are engaged elsewhere. A conflict with the Carricks would cost us 3 core systems." Another voice followed. "The Virel Syndicate cannot intervene," said a tall avian being. "Trade stability must be preserved. The neutral worlds abstain. The risk is unacceptable." Excuse after excuse. Calculations spoken aloud as if lives were numbers on a screen. Lyrian felt something inside him fracture. "You're choosing survival over morality," he said.
No, Solvane replied calmly.
"We are choosing survival over extinction." Lyrian turned slowly, his hope bleeding away with each refusal. Then he saw them. A small platform near the edge of the chamber. Poorly lit. Almost forgotten. The humans. They were unimpressive at first glance. Shorter than most species. No natural armor. No visible enhancements. Just fragile bodies wrapped in simple dark clothing. But Lyrian had heard the stories. Earth. A death world. A planet that tried to kill its own children from the moment they were born. Humans had survived predators, plagues, disasters, and each other. They had weaponized creativity itself. They fought wars not just with machines, but with ideas. And they were watching. Their lead representative stood as Lyrian approached. A woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Envoy Mara Cade," she said. "Terran Coalition." Her voice was calm. Too calm. "I know the Council has refused you," she continued. "But speak anyway." Lyrian bowed deeply. "We need help," he said. "Anything. Ships. Weapons. Soldiers." Mara Cade listened. She did not interrupt. When he finished, she was silent for several seconds. Finally, she said, "We cannot send a fleet." Lyrian's light dimmed. "But," she continued, "we can send something else." The word echoed. "Something else?" "The Carricks are not afraid of armies," Mara said. They've consumed dozens of militarized civilizations. They adapt. They overwhelm. She stepped closer. So we asked ourselves a different question. The chamber leaned in. What does a predator fear? Murmurs rippled through the council. We studied the Carricks, Mara continued. They fear unpredictability. They fear entities that do not break under pressure. They fear things that do not behave logically. She met Lyrian's gaze. They fear humans. Outrage exploded. This is madness. You're offering myths. Humans are untested. Mara raised her hand. The chamber fell silent. You denied aid, she said evenly. That makes this a private intervention. She turned back to Lyrian. What we send will not be an army. It will not negotiate. It will not retreat. Lyrian swallowed. What will you send? Mara smiled. It was not a kind smile. We will send a reminder, she said, of why Earth still exists. She tapped a device on her wrist. Authorized deployment, she said. Protocol, Black Wake. Far away, beneath Earth's surface, ancient systems awakened. A vault older than humanity's place among the stars unlocked. Inside, something stirred. Not a soldier. Not a weapon. Something built from desperation, rage, and human refusal to surrender. As frost cracked and lights flickered on, a figure opened its eyes in the darkness. And smiled. The Carrick swarm had no idea what was coming. Velu's prime burned beneath the alien predators. Cities that had once shimmered like living crystal now glowed red through smoke and fire. The ground shook with every monstrous footfall of the Carrick's warriors. Their hive minds coordinated flawlessly, every movement precise, every target accounted for. Nothing seemed capable of stopping them. Nothing, except what Mara Cade and the Terran Coalition had awakened. Deep beneath the icy mountains of Earth, Marcus Vale, one of the Coalition's most infamous operatives, stood in the shadow of a massive transport tube. Black Wake Protocol had been designed for centuries, forged from humanity's deadliest survival instincts and nightmares. Marcus wasn't just trained. He had been modified, enhanced, and tempered for one purpose: to deliver chaos to the most terrifying predators in the galaxy. His eyes, cold and grey as storm clouds, scanned the equipment before him. Every weapon had been meticulously chosen, every tool calibrated for maximum destruction. He had walked across Deathworlds scarred by famine, radiation, and civil wars. Nothing surprised him. Nothing, but he still smiled. Not a pleasant smile. A predator's smile. The kind that whispered warning to anyone who saw it: you will regret crossing us. Status. Marcus's voice carried easily over the secure comm behind him. Soldiers nodded, waiting for the moment of release. All systems ready, General Vasquez replied, her tone tight with tension. Creo Thor complete. All Black Wake units are online. Marcus turned toward the exit. Then let's remind them why Earth survives. Meanwhile, above Velu's prime, the Carrick's drones continued their relentless advance. Hive engines hummed across the orbiting fleet, preparing to crush any resistance. The planetary population, still in shock, huddled in underground shelters, praying, or screaming, or both. Ambassador Lyrian Kale had been watching the chaos unfold with a heavy heart. He had begged for fleets, begged for reinforcements, begged for something, anything. And now, with humans stepping onto his world, he realized the galaxy had underestimated the simplest truth: humans never followed the rules. The first transport pods entered Velu's prime's atmosphere, streaking like falling stars. Smoke trailed behind them, burning up in the alien sky. When the pods hit the surface, they didn't explode. They opened. And the nightmare walked out. Marcus Vale emerged, moving silently despite the roar around him. The Carricks, massive as they were, barely noticed at first. They were hunting organized prey, cities, armies, minds to dominate. A single human, fragile by appearance, was an anomaly they had never considered. But the moment his boots touched the scorched soil, something about the air shifted. The Carricks' neural link, their hive coordination, pulsed with confusion. They sensed something different, dangerous, unpredictable. Marcus smiled faintly and stepped forward. His movements were deliberate, calculated, almost graceful. He activated the armor enhancements embedded in his suit. Strength surged in his limbs, reflexes sharpened beyond human limits. The black exosuit shimmered under Velus Prime's burning skies, a shadow among the flames. The first Carrick's drone charged. It towered above Marcus, claws ready to tear him apart. The drone's neural link pulsed, and nearby units adjusted, coordinating an attack. But Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't fight, he played. A small device on his wrist emitted a pulse of nanite signals. It wasn't destructive at first, it was intelligent. Tiny machines raced along the swarm's neural network, creating small disruptions. The Carricks hesitated, then faltered. One unit twisted awkwardly, then another, until coordination collapsed like a house of cards. Marcus moved. Where a swarm had expected one kill, it now faced chaos. Drones stumbled over one another. A mechanical screech echoed through the ruined city. Civilian survivors peeked from hiding, witnessing something impossible. One human causing panic in an army of billions. He didn't stop. Marcus advanced through the Carrick's lines, using speed, stealth, and calculated brutality. Every drone he destroyed or disrupted left the swarm weaker, more disoriented. Marcus wasn't killing to conquer. He was rewriting their instincts, forcing the apex predators of the galaxy to fear, to question, to hesitate. From orbit, the Velari observers could hardly believe what they were seeing. Their data feeds captured the swarm's collapse in real time. The human was like a shadow of death. Lyrian Kale's hearts, 3 of them, felt hope for the first time in weeks. And yet Marcus didn't speak, didn't cheer. He was a predator. He had a job. One misstep could undo all of it. He reached the outskirts of what had once been the capital city. Smoke curled around the towering remains of crystal towers. Carrick's forces were scattered, but resistance had grown desperate. A massive swarm unit, larger than any seen before, descended from above, neural signals pulsing furiously. It was the Overmind's direct response, the intelligence controlling the swarm's millions. Marcus paused. He didn't need weapons for this part. He activated the core of Black Wake, the override program built into the nanite swarm. Signals raced across Velus Prime like wildfire. Carrick's drones flinched, screamed, almost like they could feel pain in ways the galaxy had never predicted. The Overmind attempted to compensate, trying to regain control of its army. But Marcus's device had anticipated every move, every countermeasure. The giant unit faltered, twisted, then exploded inwardly as drones turned on each other, blindly following corrupted instructions. The sound was deafening, a mechanical and organic cacophony, a symphony of the predator turning on itself. Marcus didn't look back. He moved deeper into the ruins, silent and relentless. Below him, hidden in bunkers and shelters, Velari children peered at the nightmare human in awe. Somewhere, their parents whispered prayers, not to the council, not to alien gods, but to humanity itself. Humans had arrived. Not to negotiate. Not to ask. To remind the galaxy why Earth had survived its own nightmares. By the end of the first day, the Carrick swarm was fractured. Communication between units was collapsing. Entire cities were liberated not by fleets or armies, but by one human walking through fire. And Marcus Vale, Black Wake operative, smiled again. This was only the beginning. Because the galaxy hadn't seen the real cost of underestimating a human. Night fell over Velus Prime, though night was meaningless here. Fires burned across continents, casting jagged shadows over ruins. Smoke rose like dark banners, twisting over the broken cities. The Carrick swarm, fractured but still dangerous, regrouped in pockets. Their numbers had thinned, but they were far from defeated. Marcus Vale moved silently through the chaos. The Black Wake suit augmented every sense, sight, sound, reflex. He didn't run. He didn't hesitate. He calculated, and the swarm fell into his traps. Above the city, the largest Carrick's Overmind unit hovered, a grotesque tower of metal and flesh, its neural signals pulsing like a heartbeat of the planet. It commanded millions. The drone units that had faltered were already rallying under its guidance. Marcus paused atop a shattered tower. He surveyed the battlefield. Then he smiled. This was the moment for the next phase. He tapped his wrist device. A low hum spread across Velu's prime. It wasn't loud, but the effect was immediate. The Carrick's neural network began to convulse. Drones misfired. They collided mid-air. They turned on one another. The Overmind screamed in frustration, pulsing massive waves of control, but Marcus had anticipated everything. Then he stepped forward. Where the Carricks expected hesitation, they found precision. Where they expected fear, they found a human who thrived in danger. Marcus moved faster than the eye could track, a shadow among smoke and ruins. The Overmind tried to adapt. Its drones formed a living wall. Marcus didn't break it with brute force. He broke it with cunning. Explosives hidden in the ruins detonated at precise intervals. Electromagnetic pulses disabled drone circuits. Nanits scrambled their signals. Each Carrick's unit fell apart under his methods, not randomly, not chaotically, but systematically dismantled. And the civilians watched. Lyrian Kale could barely breathe as he observed the projection feeds. For the first time, hope wasn't just a flicker. It was a raging flame. The galaxy's predators were being undone by a single human. Marcus didn't pause to admire the effect. He advanced deeper into the heart of the Carrick swarm's stronghold. The ground itself seemed to resist him. The terrain had been designed for the invaders, but every step, every calculated movement, carved a path through chaos. Then he reached the Overmind itself. It towered over him, a mass of thrashing limbs, pulsating carapace, and unblinking eyes. Its presence was almost unbearable, an entity that existed solely to dominate, to devour, to control. But Marcus didn't flinch. He activated the primary Black Wake device. A pulse spread across the Overmind's neural network. Every Carrick's unit linked to it convulsed violently. The Overmind shrieked, not a sound of intelligence, but of raw, synthetic pain. Its control over the swarm began to crumble. Units turned on each other. Entire battalions fell into confusion. And then Marcus stepped closer. He didn't fire a single weapon. He didn't speak. The Overmind sensors tried to analyze him, but Marcus had become the predator. Every move he made forced it to react, to miscalculate, to overextend. By the time it realized its mistake, it was too late. Explosions ripped through the swarm's core formations. The Overmind's massive body collapsed onto itself, tearing through the drones it still controlled. The remaining Carrick's units scattered into the shadows, leaderless, chaotic, terrified. From the ruins, survivors watched in awe. The Velari, who had once believed themselves doomed, began to emerge from their hiding places. Children stepped into the open, eyes wide, mouths silent. Lyrian Kale's hearts beat rapidly, each pulse a reminder of what humans could accomplish when pushed to their limits. Marcus didn't pause. He continued forward, systematically rooting out Carrick's pockets. Entire city blocks were cleared in minutes. The human predator wasn't just surviving. He was teaching an entire alien species what it meant to be hunted by something smarter, faster, and utterly relentless. By dawn, Velu's prime looked different. Fires still burned, but the streets were no longer crawling with Carricks. The Overmind was gone. Command structures had collapsed. Survivors dared to step outside. They whispered in awe, recounting the legend they had just witnessed. And somewhere high above, in orbit, Mara Cade and the Terran command watched the operation unfold. "We underestimated him," she said softly. "We always do." Marcus Vale paused for the first time that night. He surveyed the battlefield, the twisted metal, the fallen creatures. There was no celebration. No joy. Only the calm satisfaction of a predator who had completed Phase 1. Then he smiled. The galaxy had been warned. And humanity had just reminded everyone why they were feared, not for numbers, not for armies, but for ingenuity, resilience, and the refusal to surrender. Lyrian Kale, now standing among survivors, turned to Mara Cade's projection feed. How can one human do this?" he whispered. Mara's eyes were cold, unwavering. "Because he doesn't fight like anyone else," she said. He doesn't play by your rules. He makes the rules. The survivors didn't understand fully yet. They wouldn't for years. But one thing was certain. Earth had delivered a force that the galaxy would never forget. And Marcus Vale? He was already moving toward the next Carrick's outpost. The monster had been unleashed. And the galaxy had only seen the beginning. The galaxy had a long memory, but it had never seen anything like this. Reports streamed into every major system at faster-than-light speeds. Carrick swarm disintegrated. Overmind neutralized. Entire cities liberated by a single operative. Shock rippled through council chambers, trading guilds, and war academies alike. Calculations that had predicted decades of human weakness were now obsolete in minutes. In the high chamber of the Drenary Collective, Ambassador Cyril recoiled. The sleek, black-scaled diplomat's eyes widened as the projections showed Marcus Vale advancing through the ruins of Velus Prime, dismantling the swarm with precision. The Overmind, the supposed apex predator, now lay broken, its control shattered. "This is impossible," Cyril hissed. "We thought humans were unpredictable, dangerous, yes, but never this." A fellow Drenary leaned closer, voice trembling. "It's worse. They don't follow logic, they don't obey patterns. They adapt. They improvise. They create chaos as strategy." Across the galaxy, reactions were similar: disbelief, fear, and grudging awe. Calculators ran simulations, AI strategists tried to model the human operatives' methods, but the algorithms failed. Every assumption about survival, combat, and predator-prey dynamics collapsed. Meanwhile, on Velus Prime, Marcus continued. He moved like a shadow among ruins, cleaning the scattered Carrick's units that had fled into alleys and tunnels. Each move was deliberate, each strike calculated. This was no blind slaughter. It was controlled destruction, a lesson in human ingenuity and tactical brilliance. The Velari survivors whispered about the monster of the humans, but it was a compliment in their language, an awe-laden recognition that they had just witnessed something that defied understanding. Children peeked from behind rubble, expecting to see death, and instead saw a human who was neither stopped nor afraid. From orbit, Mara Cade's eyes tracked every movement. She did not flinch. She did not celebrate. Humanity had unleashed a predator, and now the galaxy would scramble to comprehend the consequences. "Every system that doubted us," she said quietly to her aides, "will remember today. Every fleet, every council, every species that refused aid, they'll know what happens when humans are pushed too far." Back on the surface, Marcus paused atop a crumbled observation tower. Smoke from the cities spiraled into the sky, casting long, twisting shadows. The Carricks were retreating, but their neural links were fractured, leaving them confused and leaderless. Marcus didn't need to pursue all of them. One step at a time, the rest would fall like dominoes. Then he noticed a new movement, a Carrick's elite unit, larger and faster than the others, moving in patterns that hinted at partial overmind control still active. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He didn't flinch. This was the test. He deployed microdrones, each small as a finger, carrying nanits tuned to the elite's neural pattern. They swarmed silently, infiltrating the creature's neural network, causing hesitation, confusion, and ultimately a total breakdown. The elite unit collapsed in a heap of twisted limbs and shattered carapace. Velari civilians watched in awe. Lyrian Kale's hearts raced. "How can one human do this?" he whispered again, voice cracking. "Even our best warriors, our entire fleets, could not have achieved this in decades." Marcus didn't stop. He moved from city to city, systematically removing Carrick's pockets, dismantling their communication arrays, and ensuring no overmind could reform. The galaxy's finest armies, trained in eons of war, would have taken centuries. Marcus took hours. In distant council chambers, species debated frantic emergency protocols. "We must contain them," one ambassador shouted. "Send fleets. Intercept humans before they interfere with other conflicts." Mara Cade shook her head. "They cannot stop him. Not unless they understand him first. And they never will. That is the Terran advantage." By the time Velus Prime's second day began, the survivors dared to emerge fully. The Carricks had been defeated, not by fleets, not by alliances, but by one human and the ingenuity of the Black Wake Protocol. Lyrian Kale approached Marcus finally, cautiously, as he scanned the horizon for remaining threats. What are you? He asked, voice barely audible over the wind. Marcus turned slowly. His grey eyes reflected the devastation around him, calm and calculating. I'm what happens, he said simply, when a species refuses to surrender, even when the odds are impossible. The Velari ambassador understood immediately. Humanity wasn't just a member of the galaxy. Humanity was a force of nature, unpredictable, relentless, and utterly terrifying when threatened. By midday, all that remained of the Carrick's forces were scattered, leaderless drones. Marcus had neutralized every significant threat. Velu's prime cities were battered, burned, and scarred, but the population survived. And through the fear, the awe, and the devastation, hope was reborn. The galaxy, watching from every angle, could no longer ignore Earth. Humans were not just survivors. They were strategists, innovators, predators of the most clever kind. And the warnings had begun. Species that had once ignored requests for help now recalculated every treaty, every engagement, every interaction with humanity. The message was clear: underestimate humans at your own peril. Marcus, still moving among the ruins, paused for the first time to breathe. The wind carried the scent of fire, ozone, and strange alien flora. He allowed himself a small smile, not for victory, but for the understanding that the galaxy would remember this night forever. The overmind was gone. The swarm dismantled. And Marcus Vale, the monster of humans, was already planning the next step. Because when humanity intervenes, it doesn't stop with half measures. And the galaxy had only seen the beginning of the legend. Velu's prime was silent, almost impossibly so. The fires still burned, smoke curling like black serpents into the sky, but the relentless roar of the Carrick swarm had vanished. The overmind, that terrifying apex predator, was no more. Its scattered drones skittered in confusion across the ruined cities, leaderless and broken. Marcus Vale moved among the remnants, each step measured, every eye alert. The Black Wake exosuit, black as obsidian, shimmered faintly under the alien sun, its enhancements humming softly. He had destroyed their command, dismantled their coordination, and left a galaxy-altering warning in his wake. And yet, for Marcus, the job wasn't over, not until every threat was neutralized. Velari survivors emerged cautiously from shelters, staring at the human predator. Children clutched their parents' hands, eyes wide, mouths silent. For them, Marcus was more than a savior. He was a force that bent reality to human will. Lyrian Kale, ambassador of the Velari, approached Marcus, hesitating with awe. I cannot understand, he whispered, voice trembling. How could one human accomplish what an entire fleet could not? Marcus didn't smile, didn't speak lightly. He simply shook his head. We adapt, he said, voice low, calm, and firm. We survive. We create solutions where others see only obstacles. That's what it means to be human. From orbit, Mara Cade observed the aftermath. Her fingers hovered over her control console, not to intervene, but to watch. Humanity had unleashed a nightmare of precision and ingenuity the galaxy would never forget. Fleets, ambassadors, and armies in systems far and wide recalculated, restructured, and panicked. No one could predict the next move of Earth. In the council chambers across the galaxy, heated debates erupted. We cannot allow this, shouted an amphibious diplomat. If humans act this way in one system, they will destabilize the entire region. A crystalline envoy replied, voice trembling, they do not destabilize. They survive. And when they survive, they teach everyone else the cost of underestimating them. On the ground, Marcus moved to the central plaza of what had once been the Velari capital. The Carricks were retreating, or dying. Entire strategic positions fell into ruin, leaving survivors to reclaim their cities. He walked calmly, surveying the remnants of alien technology scattered across the streets, every movement precise. A Velari child approached him slowly, holding a small, scorched crystal figurine, an artifact of their city, now cracked. You saved us, the child said, voice shaking. Marcus knelt, studying the figurine. "No," he said gently, his grey eyes sharp and unyielding. "You saved yourselves. I just made sure the predators couldn't stop you. Humans do what's necessary. But the courage comes from within your hearts. You fought in your way, and that's what matters." The child stared, eyes wide, and nodded slowly. Around them, the city began the first tentative steps toward rebuilding. Survivors whispered of the human who had turned fear into legend, a reminder of what the galaxy had underestimated. Meanwhile, scattered Carrick's forces tried to retreat to hidden hives. Marcus didn't chase blindly. He deployed tracking drones, micro-EMP charges, and precision nanite pulses. Within hours, every significant threat was neutralized, leaving only scattered remnants too weak or disorganized to recover. Across the galaxy, intelligence reports streamed in. Humans were no longer just a member species, they were an unpredictable apex factor. Analysts tried to simulate Marcus Vale's methods. They failed. Simulations collapsed under the weight of human adaptability, improvisation, and sheer tactical ingenuity. It was clear, Earth had set a precedent. Other civilizations now knew the true price of underestimating humanity. Fleets would think twice. Councils would calculate endlessly. Predators would hesitate. As the Velari began to rebuild, Marcus stood atop the ruined observation tower. Smoke, fire, and the cries of rebuilding filled the air, but he remained still, calm, unflinching. He had done what was needed, swift, decisive, terrifyingly effective. From behind him, a transmission activated. Mara Cade's image appeared. "Phase 1 complete," she said softly. "Velu's prime secured. Carrick's eliminated. The galaxy has seen your capabilities firsthand." Marcus didn't look at her. His gaze swept over the city. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly. "The galaxy hasn't seen what happens when humans fight with their full will." Mara nodded slowly. "And they never will forget. Not for decades, not for centuries. Humanity has just redefined fear." The survivors of Velu's prime told stories that would echo across generations. Of a single human walking through death, of the overmind collapsing under the weight of ingenuity, of cities liberated not by fleets, but by calculated brilliance, courage, and relentless determination. In orbit, the Velari recorded every detail, sending them across the galaxy. Other species watched, debated, feared, and recalculated. One thing was clear: humanity was no longer just another member of the galactic community. Humanity was a force that defied expectation, rewriting rules and reshaping the galaxy itself. Marcus Vale, moving silently across the city, didn't celebrate. There was no applause, no glory, only purpose. He had done what humans always did: survive, adapt, and ensure that their ingenuity became the nightmare others would never forget. And somewhere, deep in the network of the galaxy's intelligence feeds, a message began to circulate. Warnings, calculations, theories, all repeating the same chilling conclusion. Never underestimate a human. Never assume they will follow the rules. Humanity has just redefined fear. Velu's prime would recover. The Carrick's threat was neutralized. The galaxy would never again view Earth as a simple, fragile death world. Because one human had walked through the impossible, through fear itself, and shown the universe why humanity endures, adapts, and triumphs against the odds. And that legend, born of survival, ingenuity, and sheer relentless will, would echo across stars, forever reminding the galaxy. Humans do not ask for mercy. They demand it be earned.